Hi guys and girls, and welcome to the first video of this short mini series to get you acquainted with this channel, this website, and obviously language learning. I'm going to articulate this series in 3 videos, and this is the first one, and each video is going to come with tips, and each tip is going to be articulated in multiple steps or action steps that are going to be practical and hopefully clear. Without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1, identify your weaknesses. Step number 1 of tip number 1 is to brainstorm about your weaknesses. As a language learner, a future language learner, or a language learner who already has extensive experience in language learning, you have your weaknesses, your character traits. For example, you might be impatient or you might be a perfectionist. And it's really important. The reason why I'm giving you this tip is that it's first and foremost about language learning is about attitude. It's about your approach to language learning. If you think that something is difficult even before starting it, you will find it difficult. So your mental attitude towards learning is going to make a huge difference. And identifying your weaknesses is the first step towards clearing things and helping you get a new and positive attitude towards learning. So brainstorm about your weaknesses is the very first step that you have to undertake in order to understand where you're going and how to learn and with whom you will learn, etc., etc. Step number 2 is scientifically proven that actually jotting things down on a piece of paper with a pen and or a pencil really does make a difference and makes you connect more with the words you're pouring into a piece of paper. I'm not talking about a computer. I'm not talking about any device. I'm just specifically talking about the old-fashioned piece of paper and a pencil, because that is really going to make a difference. So just make a list of your weaknesses and put them on a piece of paper that you can look at. Step number 3 is to expand upon that and think for every single weakness. Think about more about why you think you have this weakness, and think about 1 or 2 episodes in which this weakness kept you from learning, kept you from thriving, kept you from living a certain specific situation in the way you wanted to live. For example, when I was 15, my weakness was that I was focusing too much on grammar, the old-fashioned way that I had inherited from school, and I had gotten this dusty grammar book from my grandmother, and I was trying to do these grammar drills, and I understood that I identified my weakness, saying this is not working for me, so I completely changed my way of seeing things, and I got another language learning material, which, by the way, since we're here, I don't show this normally on YouTube. For example, I used this in this language series that really made a difference, but it's first and foremost the fact that I identified my weakness and put a remedy to it. So remember just to jot down for each weakness specific episodes, and in order to dig a little bit more into that and understand your attitude towards language learning in general. And that is going to make a difference. Tip number 2 is to understand your reasons. When you start a journey such as language learning, it might happen that you find yourself lost. You don't know exactly why you've taken that journey. And in that specific moment, having a compass guiding you is going to make, once again, a huge difference. That compass for you are your inner reasons. So step number 1 is to just jot down all the reasons why you've decided to learn a language or you want to start a new language. Step number 2 is to think in terms of what are your real reasons for learning and what are your fake reasons for learning. We have a lot of adjectives for these. It can be vague or strong, inner or outer, real or fake. But the bottom line, it all boils down to what pushes you forward, what compels you, what drives you, what makes you tick, so to say. And to give you an example of this is like, for example, if you want to learn Spanish because you heard that Spanish is cool, because your friend is learning Spanish, because a lot of people speak Spanish, do you think that is an inner reason? Is that your compass that is going to make you find the way when you got lost? Or maybe you just found a person. you met and established a connection with a book, with a painting, with something that gave you emotions. That is what really makes a difference. And that or those are going to be your inner reasons that are going to make you keep learning when everything gets lost, when things get dark. And that is really important because most language learners start learning a language, but then they get lost and give up. So understand the reason, the inner reason and the outer reason or reasons. And once again, step number 3, expand upon that. Once you have it on the piece of paper, just jot down, let your emotions pour onto a piece of paper, and keep them with you, next to you, because every time that you start learning a lesson or have a learning session, you will have those next to you, and that will make a difference. Final tip for today, tip of the video is learn to visualize yourself in the future. Step number 1, once again, take a piece of paper and jot down the person visualize yourself in a situation in the future using the language that you want to learn, and think not just about the words that you're going to use. This is really important. You have to connect your will with your emotions, your words and the sounds with real life experiences. That is what makes a difference, because language learning is ultimately a human experience. And think about not only the words that you're going to use, but think about a situation, a specific situation, a topic, and the person you're going to talk to. Then step number 2, jot these things down. So imagine a specific situation and then expand upon it and expand the details. Let me give you an example. When I started learning Russian, I imagined myself constantly, every time I wanted to learn, about speaking in 1941 to an old granny living the war as she had lived the war and speaking in Russian. You cannot imagine the privilege it is, or maybe you can already, of speaking with someone who doesn't speak English, so you don't have a language in common, and that can explain things that you're interested in. And by imagining that, that is what kept me learning Russian at first, and then I imagined other multiple situations where I had established a real and strong connection, not only with the language, not only with words, not only with grammar rules, but first and foremost with human beings. And these are the first 3 tips of the first video. I hope you liked it and found it useful, and I will see you in video number 2.